The name of this audiobook, Act It, Become It. Narrated by Tim Mortimer. Voiced by Tim Mortimer. So if you're sitting comfortably, I'll begin. Chapter 1. So, Act It, Become It is the name of this audiobook. It's a truly inspiring story because it's true. Everything that I talk through, every situation, every chapter, is not based or inspired by, but really happened. It's real life, and it's about learning to trust your own intuition in a world more concerned with fitting in and following the crowd than standing out and doing your own thing. I hope this story is inspiring, and I hope that you feel it's very different from any other motivational books or audiobooks that you might have heard. That's the intention, to leave behind the formula of those such books and deliver a raw and uncompromising approach with unique content where you can learn and enjoy learning and reflect, as I do. I have a little 11-year-old, beautiful, clever daughter, and she's interested to know what I was like when I was her age growing up. And I told her that my bedroom window looked out over the rest of the little road that I was in. And for as long as I can remember, when I looked out the window, whether it was the summer or the winter, I saw two cars from my neighbour directly opposite. Identical cars, except one had wheels and one had bricks where there should be wheels. And I think you might know what I mean. One for spares, one to drive. And that's really how it was. The council estate I was brought up on in Bristol wasn't a terrible one. Nobody died that day. But it wasn't a great place for invention or creativity or inspiration. And I didn't really know I was alive. I was just going through the day. It all changed when I left for London. Chapter 2. So I'm out of work. I'm trying to find a job. I'm no longer the client with the student with potential. I'm actually simply out of work. And I spoke to my friend on the phone, because I'd actually lined him up on a date. And he said, why don't you come to London and work in an advertising agency? I work at an advertising agency in Knightsbridge, and it's amazing. And I did such a good job for them. He told me that they would pay for him to go away to any European capital for a weekend, and they bought me a suit. I put the phone down and decided that was my future. What else? Chapter 3. So I now go to meetings, and I love meetings. Listening, I'm not saying much. I'm observing, and those are the things they've told me to do, but I'm observing because I know they'll tell me to do things when I leave, and if I haven't listened and thought about it, I'll make a mess of it. Been quite happy with the way it was going and enjoy where I work. Often have lunches. Lunches were the thing in advertising in those days. Not so much these days. And I went to lunch with a friend of mine, a pal, and we met up in a little restaurant because we had expense accounts. Yes, expense accounts. I remember them. A lot of people won't, and they're rare things these days. So we had lunch. Me and my pal, we chatted about what we were doing. Two excitable kids in a London advertising agency having a great life. My pal said, so what are you working on? Have you got a good boss? And I explained, I worked on quite a famous wood stain brand, got quite famous. It's actually Ronseal. And I had a boss whose name was Anthony. Anthony was a very charming guy, but he was a bit Anthony, if you kind of know what I mean. He was slightly different to everybody else. He wore strange suits that were slightly too tight. He played tennis, but not very well. I remember those things because he was in his own little world, and the client had a problem with Anthony. I'm a little account manager, a year's experience, not even. I'm very enthusiastic, and they liked a few things I did. In fact, I became quite popular with the client because of something I did with their product. On my weekend, a bank holiday, I had nothing to do, and I went out and bought a rocking chair, one of these funny old rocking chairs. It was covered in paint, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do for my client up in Sheffield. I'm going to show I can use all their products on one piece of furniture, and I'm going to photograph it and show that I've learned about their brand and I understand how it works, so I can advertise it. So I bought all this stuff, Ronseal, Coal Ron Strip, all these things you do, and you strip it down, and I photographed it. I showed it to the client. They almost kissed me, hugged me, because I then became an enthusiast. I was an enthusiast just as they were for their brand and their products. They welcomed me. They were not doing that with Anthony. Anthony sort of rubbed them up the wrong way, so to speak, and they had a problem. And now I've learnt this.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?